End of Module 6 review, Grade 4, problem number 1. Decompose each fraction into hundredths using area models. Then write an equivalent number using number sentence using decimals. So one of the important parts here is that you remember to do it in fraction and decimal. So here, if I want to show 6/10, I can do 10, like 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. But I will need to show that it's equivalency in hundredths. So since I want hundredths, I'm going to start by writing hundredths in my denominator. Then I come back to my hundredths model and I need to color in a tenth, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, but then in reality I'm trying to count each of those little tiny boxes in there, which would give me 60, right? 60 over 100 is the same as 6/10. But then it says to write an equivalent number sentence using decimals. So you would have to know that 6/10 is the same as 0.6 or 6/10, and that's equal to 0.60 or 60 hundredths. Then you do the same for B. So in B, I'm going to start by showing 16/10. Well, this right here would be 10/10, so I can shade in the whole thing because that would be 1, right? So how you might think of that is that this could be broken into 10/10 and 6/10. So I just colored in the 10/10, and now I need to color in 6/10 of the next one. So there's 2, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, right? So this would be 6/10, and this is 10/10, so that's where I get my 16/10. But if it were in hundredths, it would still look the same. This would be colored in completely, right? But instead of giving me 10/10, now that is going to give me 100 100ths. And then I need to come over here and shade in the 6/10 again. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, which now that it's cut into hundredths, we're actually counting each tiny little square or counting by tens and going 10, 20, right, until we have 60 100ths. When you add that together, you get 160 100ths. And then you need to remember that it asked us to put it in decimals as well. So we will put 1.6, right, because, let me just scoot that down, because this was 10/10 and 6/10, which would be 1.6, and that's the same as the decimal 1.60, because on this one, let me draw it up here, 160 over 100, we could pull out 100 100ths to give us 1, and we'd still have 60 hundredths left over. Then at the bottom it says decompose each fraction into hundredths. So that just means that I need to show it in hundredths. So I'll put the hundredths at the bottom. Then write an equivalent statement for each part using decimals again. So what can I do to 10 to make it hundredths? Tenths to make it hundredths. We would multiply that times 10. And what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So 3 times 10 would be 30 hundredths. I also need it in a decimal. So 0.3, that's the 3/10, is the same as 0.30, that's 30 hundredths. Then over for D, the same idea. If I have 10 tenths and I'm trying to make hundredths, how do I turn the tenths into hundredths? We do it by multiplying by 10. Well, what you do to the bottom, you have to do the top. So 8 times 10 is 80. So you get 8/10 is the same as 80 hundredths. But you have to have it in decimals as well. So the 8/10 written as a decimal is 8/10 is equal to 80 hundredths. And that's number 1.